Thank you so much for joining me back here for our live reading of Junebug. And if you haven't gotten your copy yet for our read along, grab it. And you can hop on my website at CherieDoyen.com. And on the books tab, direct link to Junebug, right? Grab your copy and it'll be fun for you to read along. I would love for you guys to, whatever questions are popping up, whatever familiarities that you're feeling with yourself, I'd love for you to put that in the comments, and I'd love to speak to that, right? So if you remember, we had just left Tigwa, or with the teacher telling June to put the box of letters about the man on the motorcycle back up in the hayloft, hide it where she found it, and to not speak about it, right? She was like, what? Right? But she did as she was told. And we're going to begin today at Grandma's, right? Now, Grandma, she's my angel. She's raised many, many children. After her husband died, she began taking in the unfortunate ones like me. And oh, how I wished I could be one of them. They're lucky. They get to live with Grandma. I get to visit, and then I have to go back home. Now, unfortunately, they always seem to come and get me. At the same time, I know that I can't really stay. I mean, who would take care of Sam and Mom? And then there's that customary anxiousness that comes after a second, right? I can't forget about Dad. Who would take care of him? Who would put him to bed at night, right? I can still think about it, though, or dream about it, right? Now, Grandma's I can breathe. I'm allowed to crawl up into her lap whenever I feel like it. And at night, she takes me to her bed and curls in beside me under this pile of homemade quilts. We snuggle in tight, and she weaves stories laced with magic, stories about the fairies pollinating the flowers, or how if you listen really closely, you can hear the trees talking, right? These trees have been here so long and have seen and heard so much. Throwing her head back with a laugh, she would exclaim, can you imagine choosing to come here as a tree? Standing in one place for hundreds of years, right? You don't need to move or make noise. They just give all the time down to the air we breathe. What about you, Junebug? She looks at me with a wink. Do you think you could be quiet that long? June giggles. Quiet? No questions. How would you know anything? Now, Grandma, she's the strongest person I know. She can do anything. She raised 2 boys and 2 girls by herself. Now, Grandma believes what she believes, and she lives by it. Each choice is thought and prayed about, and she has one boy that still lives at home, John. Now, she's a busy lady with John and me and whatever unwanted kids happen to be around. Plus her real job, she's a decorated Stanley dealer, selling women's home products door to door. Now, when she isn't dealing with us, she's making deliveries or having home parties. Now, Grandma's house is situated right in the center of town on a street that they forgot to finish. There's some land back behind her house, and Uncle John and some of the boys built a tree house in one of the huge old trees down the hill a little. No girls allowed. I felt cheated, of course, which stirs my disgust at being put in this delicate little body. Maybe if I had chosen a different playing piece, they would all just leave me alone. Now, at Grandma's, there's a chicken coop up the hill a little bit. Now, my great-grandmother and my great-aunt lived just up the hill a ways, And my Uncle Clarence just passed that in an old ramshackle trailer with his family. Now, my great-grandmother's house was built from the sides of railroad cars atop an old foundation. Dad and the uncles worked hard building it. We have the whole corner. I love being able to wander around the three places, between the three places. Now, the only problem is the chicken coop. I have to get through the chicken coop to get from place to place. It takes every ounce of nerve I can muster to open that gate. And I run like it's my last race with the chickens flapping behind. Grandma provides the chicken and the eggs. Dad's green thumb contributes the veggies. It's quite a project at harvest time. And I have an uncle with a few head of cattle and a few hogs. We all eat very well. Now, Grandma's little house has a side porch and a front porch with swings on every side, and it's surrounded by flower beds. All the seedlings have been dug up on the side of the road somewhere or have arrived as gifts. Up in one corner is a huge, large bed of poppies. Now, the police come by periodically to count them. Apparently, she can only have so many poppies. Now, all of her gardens are surrounded by beautiful stones she's gathered on her adventures. I'm sure we have to be the richest people on earth with our gardens edged in diamonds. She loves crystals, and she wears turquoise on every finger, right? The protection stone for travelers, she would say. She loves to travel in her quest to retrace the steps of the Indians. Now, she always comes back from her trips with fabulous stories. And among the special treasures that find her on the way, she always has a new little figurine for me, a totem carved of stone from my little medicine pouch. I walk with her through the woods, basket in hand. She knows the names for every plant we pass and which ones are edible, which ones are poisonous. And we often come home with greens for our dinner or medicine for an ailment. She knows how to brew up tea from tree roots or flower combinations. God provides for all our needs. We will never go hungry. The earth will always feed us. If you're in doubt, watch the birds. If the birds can eat it, so can you. Grandma's schooling went through the 8th grade, which she finished in 6 years. And from that point, she worked in the tip mines to help support her family. Her father and her sisters had health challenges, so it fell to her to keep the family fed. And she worked hard digging in the mines, coming home exhausted, doing it all again the next day. Grandma's always had a flair for fashion, and she can create the most beautiful dresses out of nothing. She sews for me all the time. Newspapers scattered across the kitchen table and old dresses taken apart, and within an hour or so, I'm walking around with something new and different. And Grandma's love for dresses, she wears a dress almost every day. And my great aunt loves to make Barbie doll clothes, and everyone wanted to play in our closets. Me and my dolls, we dress up pretty well. Now, her house is a shrine to God. Statues, big and small, on every surface, inside and out. Crosses, prints, the Last Suppers over the sofa. Her framed needle points of Jesus. The Catholic Church is just right up the hill. Now, walking to church with Grandma is a treat. She never gets tired of my questions, and I never run out of questions, especially when it comes to God. Right? The teachings I get from religious class are often conflicting with the teachings of the teacher. And Grandma, in her soft, self-assured way, weaves the two together in a way that makes sense. She loves to sing, and she loves to sing in the name of the Lord, and she does it at the top of her lungs, and she doesn't care what others think. And a songbird, she is not. I love it so much. And cooking is right there in the same category. She's definitely not the greatest cook, but she loves to feed people. And usually the guests just try to get there early in order to help. The combination she thinks to put together. Now, her bread is an exception. I can smell it now as the house fills with its sweetness. Her rolls are a specialty. They're soft, airy, and slightly sweet. On these days, the kitchen's filled to the brim with people waiting for that first pan to be pulled out of the oven. Warm, slathered in butter. There's nothing like it. Her light bread buns are the talk of the town. Those and her peanut butter cookies. It's pretty much the extent of her repertoire when it comes to cooking. Now, it doesn't matter what she puts on the table in the end. She loves to feed people, and people love to be there. Everyone leaves feeling like they've been a guest at a feast. Now, I'm not figured into the family structure with the cousins. In my grandma's eyes, I'm sort of up on the limb with my mom, as if we're sisters. It's kind of a weird place to be, except when I'm at her house, and it seems perfectly normal. I have respect there. And I always get the first roll from the oven, even if the whole bunch has to wait for me to get there. They just have to wait. That's all there is to it. Her little Junebug gets that first roll. She has it all buttered and waiting for me. No one's allowed to eat until I take that first bite. And I always play it up big just to watch her beam. Butter dripping down my chin. When I'm in Grandma's house, she's the boss. And Dad, for some reason, has the utmost respect for her, a respect that he shows no other. And I marvel and I revel in that. I seldom leave her side. When the mess of kids is off playing, I'm following her around asking questions, and she just never seems to tire of it. Now, her house is always filled with music. There's always someone off in a corner or perched on the edge of the porch with a guitar. That's a gift that skipped me, so I settle for watching. I love to witness the strumming as it turns into song. Most weekends, the group gathers at either Grandma's house or at our place. We have the most space for the kids to play outdoors, and Dad's a great cook. Barbecue is his specialty, and the grounds are set up with every yard game you can think of. Volleyball in the corral, badminton and darts in the front yard, croquet and horseshoes on the side. Dad's huge handcrafted stone grill out front. It comes together to create a scene that looks great from the outside, right up to the moment that it doesn't, right? Now, rain or shine, that's where you'll find him, clad in his black socks, his tennis shoes, and his umbrella hat. Yep, an umbrella hat, red and yellow umbrella hat. Now, he's got a cigarette hanging from his mouth, a beer in one hand, tongs in the other. He's smiling from ear to ear. He's in his glory. And people begin to gather, usually after church, with their covered dishes of raw, bloody meat. It makes me gag. And each family comes toting their coolers of soda and beer. And the kids can't get out of the cars fast enough. Fun times until that moment when Grandma leaves. Then the party gets going for real, and the furniture's pushed aside, the dancing and the poker games start up. And as the night wears on, Dad's condition deteriorates. The job of seeing to him is left to me, keeping him dressed. He may just start taking his clothes off when he gets tired, right? I'm in my own goddamn house, shit. Or talking him out of a fight, or preventing him from drowning in the toilet, or on his own vomit. It's my job. I don't understand how that happened. Where is she? Where did Mom go? It feels like I'm the wife. When did that begin? When he started slipping into my room? Now, Grandma's house at the holidays is so much fun, right? Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Easter, it doesn't matter. She does them upright. Lots of decorations and lots of play. It's amazing how many people we can squeeze into such a tiny little place, and we do it with joy. No matter how hard they push for her to choose something different, Grandma's tree's always acceded. Dad usually cuts it for her. She likes them as big and fat as they'll fit in the house. And most of the time, it starts out scraping the ceiling, and Dad has to trim the top and make room for the angel, right? And she decorates it with ornaments that hold the name of every child, even the ones traveling through, right? They're always treated just like the rest of us. If we have an ornament, so do they. And they love seeing their names and the names of all the kids that have ever lived with Grandma mixed right in the middle with ours. It helps them feel they belong somewhere. She'll either rush out to have them made, or if there's not enough time, we'll make them one. There seems to be a lot of kids who show up right before the holidays. All the grown-ups do it up big for them, though, whatever kids happen to be with us. We always make sure they get a real Christmas with lots of presents, some maybe for the first time. I always try to be there for the tree trimming with Grandma. We do it at home, but it's not the same. There's always the stress of what could happen at home. At Grandma's, it's just pure fun. No strings, no expectations, right? She takes each more ornament out one by one, reading each child's name, then we find the exact perfect spot. It's a process that can span the length of the evening. And we sit and we string popcorn for hours listening to her stories, right? She loves her great big colored lights like the ones we put outside now, or we used to. Now, Dad's like a kid at Christmas. It's usually a really pretty good time leading up to the event itself. On tree cutting day, the troops gather. We all get bundled up in our warmest coats and double up on the socks. Don't forget your hats and gloves. It's supposed to snow later, Mom yells down the hall. Dad's been in the kitchen all morning. Everyone will end up here afterwards for a bowl of Dad's famous chili and cornbread. He loves to cook and he loves to eat. The tree farm is a magical place. They take us out on a big horse-drawn sleigh and leave us to the process of choosing. Families head off in different directions and plan to meet back at our house after dropping off their trees at home. Sam and I, hand in hand, run from tree to tree in search of the perfect one, the one that wants to go home with us. When we finally decide, Dad does the duty of chopping it down. A little twin of sadness swells up in my chest every year at the sight of the falling tree dying. With a prayer of thanks, the moment passes and excitement replaces sadness as the tree hits the ground with a thud. Dad and Kenny pull the tree into the clearing so the sleigh can take us back up to visit with Santa. And on the right end, I fill Sam's head with stories about Santa and the reindeer. You'll have to be really, really good for Santa to come. Think for a minute. What is that one special thing? What do you want the most from Santa? As we climb from the sleigh in front of the Christmas tree house, we enter Christmas full blown. The smell of pine and cedar in the air, fresh wreaths hang from the walls, and sweet homemade Christmas goodies line the counters. Santa's in the chair of honor, front and center. I take Sam's hand and we race to be the first of our crew in line. Excitement dances in his eyes as he thinks about his turn on Santa's lap. It makes me happy. I live vicariously through his innocence. We gather every year at Grandma's on Christmas Eve with lots of singing and lots of food, always music. The guitars usually get pulled out after a while and we sing hymns and carols right up until the moment that it's time to leave for midnight mass. The gifts always end up being the least important part of the evening, even for the kids. Except one. Every year, Dad sneaks my great Aunt Dee Dee a bottle of Jack Daniels. Grandma doesn't allow alcohol in her house. That's why Dad makes so many trips to the car. It's a well-known secret just between Dad and Aunt Dee Dee. He makes it do every year as if it were the first time. They laugh and whisper, acting as if Grandma doesn't know. And Aunt Dee Dee is such a sickly little lady, Dad says. If a little swig of Jack Daniels is going to take away her pain for a second, then let her have it. At the end of the evening, right before we need to leave, the Bible is pulled out. And we finished the night with the story of Jesus's birth, setting the stage for midnight mass. Dad doesn't do church, but he does do midnight mass. He leaves a few times to go get a nicotine fix accompanied by a swig of his liquid gold, but he's present. We're all in our Christmas wear, dressed to the nines, and our shoes that hurt our feet, clothes that don't bend right. Hand in hand, I stand next to Grandma and I watch her glow turn to rapture as she sings out in the name of the Lord. Poorly, but she doesn't care, and neither do I. Looking up, my heart swells with love, and I sure do love my Grandma. But in the shadows is lurking the ever-present dread of going home. After midnight mass, we hurry home to our house. It's a big day tomorrow. I hurry Sam into his jammies and we're talking about Santa. It's late, but the excitement has him wound up. We hurriedly make up a plate of cookies and pour some milk to set out for Santa. We add a few carrots and a celery for the reindeer. They probably need a snack too. They've been working really hard pulling that sled around. Hopefully Dad remembers to take a few bites. I tuck Sam in with me and whispering magical stories about the night until he drifts off to sleep. I don't want his dreams to be affected by the fighting. As I drift off, I plan my reactions for morning so we don't get off to the wrong foot, right? The trick is to watch Dad's face really closely and anticipate which gifts he's picked out and what expectation he has. If we don't guess right, the rest of the day will be filled with threats of packing everything up and returning it. Spend all that money, and these goddamn kids don't appreciate anything. So much for the magic of Santa. Now, if you haven't gotten her, pick her up. Junebug, right? And you know, I really, most importantly, way more importantly, I really want you to be thinking about how you can be aware, right, of what's going on for children, right? Why is the bully being who she is or he is, right? What is in his bucket that he's dragging with him every day, right? And please hop on my website, CherieDoyen.com, book your free 30-minute call, your freedom call, and you're not alone. And PTSD is not a life sentence, not anymore, right? The QT matrix is fast, it's efficient, right? And truly cleaning up your timeline, you know, undoing the PTSD is the fast part, right? And we have to learn how to live differently. Our programming is faulty. We have to learn how to live differently. We have to eliminate fear. As we move forward, you'll watch the fear start creeping in, and you'll watch June begin to lose her sparkle, right? Because when we're in struggle and fear, right, we're not seeing anything good around us. So I will see you back here as we continue forward with Junebug. Thank you for joining me here.